Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Grace Pathway Podcast. My name is Matt Roberts, and we are so excited that you're tuning in. We've got a good one for you today, but before we get started, as always, hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date on all the videos that we're constantly uploading. We want to make sure you're the first to know about new content that's coming out. But today, we're continuing, as always, and telling stories of people in our church. And I've invited my longtime friend, Jared Dodson, to come and have a conversation. Welcome. I would say welcome to the space, but you helped design the space, and your office is literally attached to
right
this.
there.
Right there.
Yeah.
Man, it's good to have you.
Yeah.
And most people don't know this, but I think I've known you probably longer than most people in my world. You've been in my world since I was like 19 years old.
15 years. Yeah.
15 years, man.
Yeah, 2010.
That's crazy. That's a big chunk of my life. And Jared, you are one of my favorite people, and
thank you.
Yes, and most people, I'm just gonna brag on my boy here for a second because he will not say this, but Jared, you do a lot of things. You are one of our worship leaders. You're one of our band members. You play literally everything, and you do everything extremely well, which has always been something I've been extremely jealous of. It's like, I'm just going to play the drums. Oh, and it's fantastic. I'm going to play keys, and you grew up that way, which is awesome. Jared, also, for many people that don't know, Jared's usually the man behind the camera, filming all the videos, doing edits for everybody, making things look really good. You also are Pastor Bill's right-hand man. You're his assistant. Right-hand. As in, you help make his life less crazy, and order things, make sure everything's in line, get everything set up.
Right, that's my job. Make his life easier.
And that's a tall task. And Pastor Bill's a runner, and and it's a good thing you got some good shoes on you, man. But you've kind of been a part of Pathway multiple times, and so we're going to break that down. But before we get into like Pathway and your story here, I would like to go back further. Tell me, where did you grow up? Where was home for you?
Well, initially it was kind of the Pismo Beach area.
Okay.
From 1 to 9-ish.
Okay.
Grew up in a E-Free church down in Arroyo Grande, Grace Bible Church. And then we moved to the Bay Area, so we were in Redwood City. My dad was worship pastor. He was a worship pastor at that church, at Grace Bible Church.
Okay.
And then we moved to Redwood City. He was a worship pastor at PBC, which is Ray Stedman's old church. He was long gone by the time we got there. So we were there for 4 years, and then we moved to Redding in 2001.
2001.
So yeah, we've been here for long time. Long time.
And the Dodsons have been a part of, and you have your oldest sister, and then you have your little sister, and you're the middle son in this crew. And all of you, was music just a part of your life from the very beginning? Because your mom sings.
Yeah. My dad was a worship pastor my whole childhood until we moved up here, and he was still leading worship up here. But yeah, everybody sang and played piano, and
it was just a normal thing.
Yeah,
it's just very normal, and that's awesome. Most people are like, "That's not normal," but I love that it was normal for you. Now, in that time, one of the questions I always ask people who like have grown up in the church, or especially if your dad was on staff at a church, was were you born into? Obviously, you were born into a Christian family, but that decision for it to become your faith, when was that for you?
Yeah, I don't even remember. It was 4. I was 4 years old.
4 years old, you got saved.
Yeah.
I'm making this decision.
Yeah.
But when did it become like, this is real for me?
I think it kind of always was. I definitely, when we moved here, I had a rough season. I was 12 or 13 when we moved here, and it wasn't the greatest circumstances moving here.
When you left the Bay Area, Pismo Beach, all this stuff, Redwood City, beautiful. Redding is beautiful, but it's definitely isolated
and hot.
I know you don't. It's so hot.
Yeah.
Yes, the Redding heat will.
Yeah, I actually was in the hospital my first week.
No
moving up.
way.
Yeah, no, it was bad. But
just completely dehydrated and all.
Yeah.
When it's 115, everyone is just leaking.
It was like second day of school, and
geez.
it was 115 degrees. It was bad.
Welcome to Redding.
But so I had 8 or 10 years through junior high school, and a little bit after high school, I was not really interested in
Okay.
church. We came here. I mean, this was our church when we moved here.
Wow. So back
But
then,
yeah.
Pastor Bill was here then.
No, he came about a year
A
later.
year later. Okay.
Um, but yeah, my parents got plugged in. They were
Yeah.
doing worship for the classic service, and
And your mom's still rocking that.
mom's still there.
I love that.
So yeah, I wasn't super interested for a while. I think 2009 was when I really started taking it seriously. I came back here. I was working night shifts at a care home, so I'd get off on Sunday morning and come here, and got baptized when we were doing the spontaneous baptisms in 2009. Where 200 something people got baptized.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I think it's time. I've been saved for a long time, but I've never been baptized. So
Wow.
yeah, I just said, yeah, I'll do it. Didn't tell my mom. I think they were kind of disappointed. They found out when the certificate came in the mail. They're like, you didn't even mention it at all. But yeah,
Felt like I needed to
know.
get baptized in that moment.
yeah. And then the next year I started at Simpson and just kind of started
Life started
getting serious.
Life started to change. What was life before coming back to Path? I mean, you're here in Reading. You said it was rough. Like, pull back some of the layers a little bit for people, because I can look like a number of different things. What was that like for you?
Well, yeah, so my dad was worship pastor in Palo Alto, and he lost his job. He was an alcoholic, not a crazy, like I didn't even know. I wouldn't have even known.
Okay.
But because of that, they asked him to step down, and so we moved up here because my grandma, like we have family up here, and so that just kind of put a bad taste in my mouth. I didn't really want to have anything to do with church
That makes
for a
sense.
while.
Yeah.
And I was at the age where, my parents weren't going to drag me out of bed on a Sunday morning. So, yeah, I just kind of did my own thing. And then through high school, I say normal high school stuff, maybe not normal for everybody, but getting into some trouble and
Oh yeah.
being a dumb teenager.
Sure.
And
What was it that you're like? What brought you back? Like, because you're in that space, and you're doing the dumb stuff, and like a lot of us have done, and no judgment, because I know a lot of people have done that. We've all had our moments, but what was it that goes? Yeah, I'm tired of that. What was that moment for you like?
I was just tired. I was getting in trouble. I was going nowhere. I had what I thought was a decent job. I was working at a care home, which was, it was interesting. It was, an unusual job. It wasn't flipping burgers. But, none of my friends were saved. I had no, positive influence at the time. And I just kept getting in trouble. I was making decent money, but had no money,
Yeah.
So I wasn't making good decisions, and I got in trouble. And my mom was like, "Okay, why don't you come to Simpson? You can get free tuition." And I just said I have no reason not to.
Sure.
So
Yeah. What was that adjustment like? I mean, that's a big pendulum shift, going from none of my friends are saved. I'm working this job, making good money, but the job's tiring. It's kind of a lonely job, it's its own thing. To now you're at like high school Christian summer camp on steroids, where everyone's like, we're gonna be best friends, and you meet people like me.
Yeah.
Your eyes get so big.
Yeah. It was an adjustment. I tried to jump in head first, and I kind of did.
Yeah, you did.
I think I did well.
You did. I have videos of you like on stage, like
Yeah.
doing performances and all kinds of
Yeah.
stuff. And
It wasn't as hard as I thought it would be to pretend to be an extrovert and
And by the way, for people that don't know, if you can't already tell, my boy Jared here is extreme introvert.
Extreme introvert.
People drain you. That doesn't necessarily you don't like people, but they suck the life out of you.
Yeah.
You like to be.
I love people, but it's mental cardio.
Yeah, that's a good way of saying it. It's a mental workout for sure.
Yeah. But it was surprisingly easy. Hillary was going there. My little sister was already there, and it was just and she was popular. Everybody loves Hillary.
Yeah.
And so it's just kind of an easy on ramp. Just hang out with her and her friends.
Yeah.
And
and that's where we met, was at Simpson. And I remember everyone knew Hillary because she's Hillary Dodson. I mean, the voice of an angel. Like, everyone knows Hillary. And then all of a sudden we heard, oh, Hillary has a brother. And of course, the first time we heard you guys sing together, like, okay, everyone's crying. Like, everyone booked you guys, I think, in their minds for their future weddings.
Yeah.
It's true. You guys did so many weddings. You actually sang at my wedding, so I'll give you a shout out. You sang at my wedding, and it was my favorite part. My wife's cousin. I don't know if I told you.
It was your favorite part of your wedding.
Well, it's one of my favorites. I don't know if I ever told you this, but my wife's cousin was a DJ, and he's a professional singer. And when you sang and played for my wife to walk down the aisle, he was so wowed that he didn't even sing our first dance song like he was supposed to, because of how amazing.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he chose not to, and I still give him credit to this day. I'm like, you didn't sing our first dance song. You played an MP3 because of how good you was. So
all right.
Yeah, so a little shout out to you.
Okay.
But I remember we started to get to know each other there, and one of the things that was going on at Simpson at the time, I guess we'll go here for a little bit, was because it was a big part of where we spent a lot of time, was this thing that we started at Simpson called Unite, which was a weekly gathering of the Simpson students, really anybody though in the Reading that wanted to come. And it was not bound by just a church, and it was really just a group of believers that were going to come and gather, really trying to live out that John 17, that unity of it doesn't matter what church, what denomination, though I know we have a lot of variations of things, but we're just going to pray for each other. We're going to worship God, and we're going to encourage one another. And that's what we did every Monday. And it was a really powerful season. And I remember asking you to come on and kind of help me coordinate all the music and the worship for it. Either that was you leading, or you would reach out and build teams from other churches. And all of a sudden we had this really cool network where the churches were talking to each other, and it was powerful. I remember we did a worship night even over here at Pathway, and you led it, and you had people from the Stirring, you had a worship leader. I think there was someone from Bethel. You had some other worship from Simpson, from Pathway. You had a bunch of different people come together. And it was just a really powerful image of what the body of Christ could be. We talked about that. Everyone's got different parts. Everyone plays different things. And just to gather around that. And then to see now, as we're approaching Good Friday, having a moment where the body of Christians are going to gather around the cross of Christ.
Right.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to say I believe that's all the Lord, but I think that you helped pave a way in a lot of that, and so appreciate you jumping in and helping lead. And I know through that though we got you connected. It's kind of hard to keep you under wraps, but you got connected here with Tim. Remember that? You remember going through all that? What was that like for you?
I remember Unite. Unite was cool. It was kind of my reintroduction into worship. I had been so out of the worship space. Hillary and I had done a couple shows, pop-up shows at Maxwell's or but not worship or anything like that. Right. I would serve with my parents. My dad would ask me to come in and play bass or play guitar or something for him. But other than that, I was completely out of worship until Unite.
Wow. I don't think I realized that. That's awesome.
Yeah. And then I think it was when I got actually plugged in here was, Tim did that first round of internships, which you were a part of. And then I think you just said, hey, I got this guy for the next round.
I definitely did. I was like, you got it. Yeah, if we don't get Jared on, we're missing out on not just what he brings, but also just an opportunity to see where God wants to take you. Yeah. And you've done, that internship you were leading. You've done I don't know how many Christmases and Easters here, and you've been, like I said, you've been a part
So
of
many.
Pathway for a long time. You've worked various different jobs. I mean, weren't you on the facilities team for?
I came on facilities like 12 years ago
Oh
and
my gosh.
did that for a while.
Yeah. I heard a rumor. Did you ever once set off the sprinklers?
I did. I did. Yeah.
That's
I broke one of the sprinklers with the table.
Oh my
I was carrying a table, setting that up, and just set it down, and
smashed and broke.
all of the dirty, gross water came pouring out. Yeah.
Yep. No. Things that happen. There's a lot of grace here. I'm grateful for it. There's stories of me not showing up on stage at the right time at the end of service.
I was that was.
Were you on with me?
Yeah,
you were.
Me, and Lindsay.
Yep. And I did not show up at the end of service, and like I was supposed. We have a lot of good memories there.
Yep.
Talk to me about. Okay, so. And then we're here, we're serving. I graduate, I move away. I kept coming up every once in a while just to check in. From that point on, I mean, you were on facilities here, working. But I know that you went through something pretty traumatic, even before then, with your dad.
Yeah. Yeah, he got sick. I mean, he struggled with heart issues pretty much my whole life. Like, he had his first massive heart attack at the age of 35. I was 5 years old. So yeah, he had a crazy recovery from that, bounced back, did pretty well. And then I think it was 2009, 2010 or so, he had another episode, had to get a pacemaker put in. And just kind of started going downhill. And then 2015, had another episode, and they said, hey, we got to get you a new heart. So they put him on a transplant list, set an appointment for him to get, it's called the LVAD. It's like a pump.
Yeah.
And so he had an appointment to get that put in. And when he went in for surgery, placement went fine, but there were some other complications, and over the course of a couple of weeks, just went downhill. So yeah, we lost him 10 years ago.
10 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember not being in town and you going through that, and that being a very obviously he just wasn't doing very healthy. He wasn't very healthy and going down, but still just the pain of losing your dad, who's been such an instrumental person in your life. Was that a moment where it caused like faith to question, or things to just go like any of that, or was it just like
no?
What was that like? Because I could really take someone and just throw them into a really bad spiral place.
Yeah, no, it was heartbreaking. For all of us, but honestly, it was kind of the opposite. Like, I knew that, like, he was ready to go.
Yeah.
I think if everything went fine with the surgery, he would have been fine, but
Sure.
like, with kind of how things initially went with the surgery, I think he was just like, all right, let me go. Yeah. But yeah, instead of like shaking my faith, I was just so thankful for like the time that I did have with him.
So good.
Because we could have lost him,
you were 5.
20 years earlier.
Yeah.
And we didn't. And then, through my high school years and after that, like, I know I kind of put him and my mom through hell for a while. I know that, they were on their knees praying for me, and when I kind of turned things around and started focusing on the right stuff, I got 4 or 5 more years, like good years with him. And we got super tight. Like, I would come home from work, I'd get off work at 10 and come home, and he'd be sitting there, and we'd just talk about the Bible or politics or apologetics or whatever, and music. And so I had 5 really good years before then. So I'm thankful for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I love that because I feel like so many of those things that you just mentioned are things that you are still extremely passionate about to this day. You know, music, politics, I mean, apologetics. We talked about that earlier. I mean, that's why you started a podcast a year ago. So I have a few episodes out. What do you call the podcast again? Is
Theologic.
Theologic,
Yeah.
which is awesome. And if you guys haven't checked it out, make sure you check out Theologic. He's going to start posting more content when you find time.
When you find time. It's been months.
It's been months, but it's good.
Months,
it's so good, and you're so good at it. And I was telling him earlier, he's got such a good podcaster voice because it's like you got that little rasp, and it's I love it, man.
I don't hear it, but
you don't hear it, but I'm just a Jared fan. I'll raise the banner.
I'll take it.
I just love that your dad was able to be there, implement such things in your life, and got to see you become more of the man that you are now. And you know, 10 years ago, and then I know you also stepped into full-time ministry. I mean, you were doing facilities work. You were always leading worship. But I always knew in my back of my head, I'm like, man, naturally, if he's great musician, and he loves leading in front of people, and he's great in church, and he loves the Bible, like he should naturally be a worship pastor. So I know that's what my heart was for you. I know it's where Pastor Tim was. We were kind of like encouraging that in you, and then you got an opportunity, to go and be that. Let's talk about that real quick.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of thought the same thing. You know, I growing up musical and having a worship pastor dad and serving in worship, enjoying worship. I just kind of thought that was the next natural progression. It's like God's given me a heart for music, and you know, this is how I could serve Him with what He's given me. And so, yeah, I got a call from Jeremy down there in Vacaville and
Valley Church. One of our friends. We've had Jeremy White come up and preach here a few times. We love Jeremy.
Awesome church, amazing community, tight knit. Like everybody knows everybody.
Cool.
So it really was like a family church, which was really cool. So yeah, I moved down there in 2017 and got my feet wet right away. Like I really didn't know what I was doing. Like Tim does a good job of building people and building leaders and setting you up, but I really didn't know what I was doing. But I had a great team down there, awesome guys, awesome staff, like all the pastors were great. So yeah, I was down there for 4 years, and it was awesome. I mean, it was a great experience.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. You're in there and you're doing it, and you know, you said like, and I think, yeah, we always have experienced different leaders who are just really gifted in certain areas. You know, beyond just the thing that they maybe are hired for, they have this other element. And obviously here at Pathway, so many people have been empowered and given opportunities by Tim and the kind of legacy he has, just calling up people from different walks and giving them opportunities to grow, and he challenges them. And his giftings are great, but that's Tim. Yeah. You have a totally different set of giftings. Yeah. And I think that game of comparison can be, sometimes I've played that before, of like, I'm not him or I'm not this. And even with like speaking, like none of us are Pastor Bill. So like, right. how can we, still preach God's word? But again, God's like, hey, we're all members of the body. You said it earlier. Yeah. What was, when you are operating in great church, great community, and a lot of your giftings, by the way, but there was a lot of the areas that the job requires was outside of necessarily your passion or your giftings. What did that lead to?
Yeah, I mean, I struggled with imposter syndrome like the entire time I was down there. I never felt like I was really doing it right, and it was, I think I fought that for a long time, thinking like, my dad was a worship pastor. I love music. I love worship. Why is this such a struggle? And the church is great. People are great. Why am I struggling? And, like we said, I'm extreme introvert. don't like the spotlight. I don't really like being on stage.
Right.
And, part of me thought like, oh, like that's a positive thing,
I think I think I was telling you earlier, like it was one of the things that I loved about you is like, here's a guy who's not just, I have to be on stage because
Right.
that can be, it's about you.
Yeah.
Here's this guy who's got all the giftings to do this. And every time you sing, people follow. And that's still true to this day. Anytime you lead, people will follow you. And that's still a sign of you are a gifted worship leader. Doesn't mean you have to do it as your career though.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And I think that's the lie that a lot of us can get stuck in is, I have this gift. Do I need to be doing it with my life in a church, or can I still use this gift for God and still be a part of other things that God wants me to do?
Right. Right. And that's what it was. I thought that, this is the only thing that makes sense for me,
Right.
but it just wasn't working, and I kept thinking about 1 Corinthians, can the eye say to the ear, I have no need for you? Can the
Right.
can the head say to the feet, I have no need for you? Like, we're all different parts of one body. And I think what I came to Jeremy with when it was time to leave, I just said, I feel like I'm a pair of hands trying to operate as a head,
It's a good analogy.
I feel like the leadership from stage, I can do that. But really leading a team, leading people who are serving underneath me and looking for vision, looking for direction, I really struggled with that. So yeah, I just came to the realization like they need somebody who's more of a head than a pair of hands. So
that's a pretty big thing to get to. Like, I think sometimes people would be a little bit, no, this is mine, and I'm going to make myself turn into this. I'm going to force myself to be somebody. But I think for you, there's power in even recognizing this is not what is best for me. And in doing that, it's also not what's best for the church.
Right.
I'm not saying my best yes right now.
Yeah.
And even though it's a really good thing, I mean, no one can deny it was a really good thing, and God used every bit of it. Like, and you were still very loved down there, and you didn't burn bridges. Like, I think there's even something to applaud you for. Is some people with churches and transitions just handle it so poorly.
Yeah.
But I think for you to go, this is about me. This is not about you. I want to make sure you guys are good, but I also I got to do what's also right for me.
Right.
Very honorable, man.
And I think that's what I wanted to, if I was going to leave, I wanted to leave on good terms. I didn't want to burn out.
Yeah.
And
which is what you were headed to.
And mess up or do, or burn any bridges, I've still got I've still got good relationships with the guys down there. But yeah, I mean, it wasn't easy to come to that conclusion or that realization. Like, it was humbling. It was, I felt like a failure. I went down there to lead, and I'd spent the last 10 years of my life like with that goal. Like, this is, that's the destination. That's what I'm going to do.
Then you
with
get there,
the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And
then you get there and you're like, there's more. This isn't it. I remember that's actually fun. That's right when I called you. And I said, "Hey, man, do you want to come up to Washington and work with me?" And you were at that place, man. I was like,
I'm going home.
I'm going home. I'm fried. Like, I need to heal, and not even heal because it was a bad experience. I think you said like I'm not at my best. I'm not healthy right now. And I remember going, dude, that's awesome. And and I didn't know I was going to be coming and joining you here as well.
I'm glad I didn't go up there.
I know. I'm like, I would have hated that. But man, and now you're here and you're in the season of you're working, you're still serving, you still lead worship, you played bass for Christmas, you do drums on the weekend. I mean, you do everything. And I know you're still in this journey of kind of really figuring out all that God has in store. And I know that sometimes can feel like, God, why is it taking so long? Or what am I doing? Am I not doing things right? But I just want to encourage you. I think that you are right where God has you. And honestly, there's that. I used to believe like, well, if I'm not walking where God wants me to walk, then I'm not walking with God. And yet, however, I misread that. And I think it was Pastor Bill who even helped me realize, he's like, but Matt, if you're walking with God, he's walking with you, you know, and he's right there with you. And so, dude, I know that you're a part, you're a huge foundation of Pathway. You've been a part, like, again, basically 15 years of this church. Obviously, when you were even down in that valley, I mean, you still had relationships would come up and lead and still be a part, and now you're here back. And I know you're on rotation as one of our worship leaders, which I love. When I was visiting, every time I visited, you were leading, and my wife and I were able to sit and worship under you, which was like our favorite thing, because it's just nostalgia for me. But what would you say as we kind of wrap things up a little bit? I know we could spend a long time talking about more stuff, but for someone who maybe is wrestling with purpose, what would you say or encourage them with as you yourself are still navigating through that? You know, like you're here, you're with your family, you're back with your mom, your sister, you're working, you're doing all the right things, you're still in the church, you're still involved in the church, like you haven't thrown the church out, like I'm out with you. You're still able to be creative, but you're in the season of really figuring out all that. What would you say to someone who maybe is wrestling with, this is my future, or I don't know what my purpose is, and they're kind of stuck in that?
I mean, kind of the same things that I had to tell myself, you know, that we are all part of one body. You know, we are the body of Christ, and we're all different members. We have different functions and different strengths and different roles to play, but no one is less necessary than the other, you know, and it can be hard trying to, you know, actually figure out what your role is, but every believer is vital to the church, vital to the body. And, you know, even if you are struggling with kind of like what your purpose is, or you feel like you're just kind of chugging through life, like you said, if you're walking with God, God's walking with you, you know, and I know that, you know, with 3 years of hindsight, like that move back here was a God thing, you know, and, you know, even if I can't see it day to day here, like I know that where I am now is a God thing. So that's what I would encourage people with.
I have the perspective and the awareness to see that God's moving in your life, you know, because it doesn't have to be these mountains that are moving out of your path. Sometimes God can do that. It doesn't have to be the river of old parting ways and oh, here we are going down. Sometimes it's just subtle movements. Sometimes it's just a person or a job opportunity or a new person that's brought back in, or this opportunity to go like, wow, this is why I'm here for this very reason. And even if it's just for this season, I know that God has me here, and I'm gonna do everything in my power to be available for what God wants. So,
well, when you look at like the heavy hitters in the Bible, you know, a lot of what's written wasn't so great. A lot of it was great seasons of life, but I mean, you pick any one of them and look at how much of their life wasn't even written about. You know, so life doesn't have to be like a dramatic highs and lows. Like,
does not.
Just walk with God.
It's the journey.
Walk with God, and He's walking with you.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, how many of the leaders too are? And I think we often feel this pressure to like be everything we need to be at such a young age. You know, like in your early 20s. Like if I'm not achieving this, then I'm failing. It's like
I've given up on that.
I'm
getting old. So
it's kind of we have to, right? I mean, like Jesus didn't even start his ministry until he was in his early 30s. Like most people didn't take the throne until they were older. Like in the Bible. And so even for us going, okay, we're not gonna play that game of, you know, this is what I want. I'm willing this into my passion. However, man, I just appreciate your perspective of like, God, I don't need to be that.
Yeah, you don't need to compare your story to other people's stories.
Oh, dude, comparison kills. It kills joy. It kills passion. It kills everything. And we do it all the time.
It's way easier said than done.
Oh, absolutely, man. So comparison kills.
Every time Tim rolls in with his big old truck, I'm like,
And you and I cruising with our very tiny white cars.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's barely hanging on.
Hey, it gets us there. Gets us to and from, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm grateful.
Yeah, bro. Absolutely.
Grateful.
Well, I love you, my guy, and I'm
thanks.
grateful for you and your friendship. And I think if I think about Jared, it's you have always been just steady, loving, loyal. You're true to yourself, and I think that's always been what I've been drawn to. Is Jared's genuine, and he's never gonna try and be somebody he's not. And that was true to this day. I mean, even with like stepping into worship, that wasn't you being somebody you're not. That was you discovering more of who you want to be.
Yeah.
And you've always been Jared, and I appreciate that about you. Like you love the Lord, you love your family, you love people, and you care about the gospel.
Right.
And that's why you do what you do. So. Anyway, man, thank you for taking time.
Yeah.
Thanks for spending
you,
time with me, your old friend, and I'm glad we got a chance to just sit and talk today.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's get soup and salad next week.
Soup and salad next week, bro.
Maybe the week after. Yeah.